Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the final segment of Morning Break. Now it's time to go and see what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sidra and I'm your life coach. This week we are talking about children and the importance of the message we give to our kids. As adults, we all like to raise good kids with good values and good morals. And instead, what are we behaving in front of them is what they're picking up on, because they are consistently being programmed by our own behaviors. So if we are reacting to a situation in a stressful way, or having short tempers, or being really anxious, no matter what we say to our kids about being calm, being honest, and being good kids, they are actually watching us react the way, and that's exactly what they are picking up on. So next time, if you feel the need to react to a situation in a stressful way or being really angry and you have kids around you, watch. Take a step back and become aware of your feelings and say, what is the message I'm really giving here to my kid? And that would really change your perspective of the situation, because what you're really doing is looking at the bigger picture, as you have a choice. Kids pick up with our actions how we are behaving, because we are the role models of our kids, and action speaks louder than words. If you want more information and if you want any help, please feel free to email me at sidra@myjourneytohappiness.com. Assalamu alaikum.
I really like how she picked that topic of children to talk about, especially because, today we've been discussing Lady Fatima and how important how important she was in all of our lives, that she was in everyone's lives, and she is to us still today. And so, that concept of programming your children, the concept of what you say to them, sitting in them, is something that we all really need to learn from. And I really like how Sidra said there that you really need to, when you're reacting to a situation with your children, you really need to take a step back and think about what the actual message is that you want to convey to them, because often that gets lost in anger or whatever you're talking to them about, that will get lost. And you need to remember that whatever you say will leave a lasting impression.
Yeah, and I have two nephews, and you're absolutely right. I think and she's right when you have to think about what you're saying, and so that because obviously there is such a important sort of time in your life when you're so young that anything can affect you, and everything, and it shapes you and it molds your mind and how you're thinking. So obviously I think definitely not just parents, but anyone that has a small children in their whole family should be careful about what they're saying to their children, and how they're talking to them, and what they're asking them to do, and how they're behaving in front of them, even if they're not talking directly to them. But sometimes we'll switch when we're talking to a child, and then when we're talking to an adult, we'll completely change. And obviously the child can hear and can see and can take this all in, and then they'll just necessarily repeat and replicate that behaviour. So absolutely, we have to be careful, and she's absolutely right. I totally agree with what Sidra is saying.
Okay, so now it's time for Fact of the Week. Fatima, what fact do you have for us this week?
Yeah, well, I decided to continue reading from Lady Fatima Zahra's sermon. And I wanted to read out just the actual final part of her sermon. Her sermon's obviously very long. So this is the final part where she's speaking in the court, and she says, "Surely I have said with full knowledge that you intend to forsake me, and knowing the betrayal which your hearts sensed. But it is the state of the soul, the effusion of fury, the dissemination of what is, the chest and the presentation of the proof. Hence, here it is, bag it, leadership, and put it on the back of an ill she-camel, which has a thin hump, with everlasting grace, marked with the wrath of Allah, and the blame of ever which leads to the fire of the wrath of Allah, kindled to a blaze, that which doth mount right to the hearts. For Allah witnesses what you do, and soon will the unjust assailants know what vicissitudes their affairs will take. And I am the daughter of the warner, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to you against a severe punishment. So act, and so will we, and wait, and we shall wait. And that is what she ended her sermon on. And that's, you know, that's really, I thought, very, very powerful, in the sense that she's saying a final kind of saying, you know, you have ignored me. This is what I say is the truth, but you have chosen to ignore me, and I am, you know, again warning you that this is, you know, this is bad for you, because this is the way to the hellfire. And of course we know about that hadith that we said a couple of episodes ago, where the Prophet even said that, you know, Fatima is a part of me, you know, her anger is my anger, and, you know, whoever angers me angers Allah. So, you know, we see the strong link there, and of course she's saying that Allah is witness, and that, you know, how powerful is that, the fact that she's saying that, you know, you wait, we will wait, and we'll see what happens. And that, to me, just when I read that, just blew me away.
Completely, it's very powerful, and the thing that was striking me more than anything was just how history has this crazy way of repeating itself, because it just really, I'm sure you could kind of link that to so many of the sermons that even Imam Ali alayhi salam gave. But for me, I was thinking about the speech that Imam Zain al-Abidin gave to Yazid, and how he kind of was saying that Allah is witnessing everything. And, you know, it's just, it's sad how history repeats itself, but like you said, yeah, the message there is very important. What's really sort of stuck out for me was that image of taking leadership and putting it on the back of an ill she-camel. And I think that sort of says it all. That says completely what she thought of the leadership of the first caliph, and how she felt that it had been treated when she knew exactly what the Prophet, peace be upon him, had said.
Yeah, I totally agree. And hopefully, inshallah, our viewers can take, you know, good lessons from the life of Lady Fatima Zahra, as she is truly a great example for us to follow. Okay, now it's time to take a look at part 3 of Humeras Ziyarat video journal.
السلام عليك يا بنت نبي الهدى السلام عليك يا بنت سيد الأنبياء السلام عليك يا بنت صاحب الحوض واللواء.
This morning we visited Sidra Zaidi, which obviously was a very emotional experience. So much to think about, and so much of a personality to really try and learn from as well. We are here at the burial place of Hujr bin Adi al-Kindi. We have just had a lecture by Sayyid Ammar about who he was, how he was a companion of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and what he did, how he sacrificed his son. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're in Baba Saghir, and behind me you can see Bibi Fida's burial place, obviously known as a servant of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. So a lot to learn from in terms of being a servant of Allah.
They were brought here on the 1st of Safar, and each one of them began to describe what they went through when they went through this exact bazaar here that you see. So they gathered all of them here. Do you know when they gathered them, all of them had the chains around their hands and chains around their feet. But would you believe that some of them were taller, some were shorter? So if you were shorter, you'd have to tiptoe just to try and keep up with those who were taller than you. So you imagine for somebody like Ruqayya, that 4-year-old, and her auntie Sayyida Zainab, and Ruqayya has to try and tiptoe so the chains remain level.
Walking through Bazaar Sham, and we had brother Hussein Virji reciting a Noha for us. So we did Matam coming down Bazar Sham, and it was very emotional, because you could imagine obviously looking up at the windows around and people staring at us, how it must have felt for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And also, we got the feeling even today that people were looking at us when we were doing Matam and very much not really understanding where we're coming from and why we are mourning such people as well. And so, you can kind of, in maybe 1%, imagine how they must have felt walking through Bazar Sham. After walking through Bazar Sham, we obviously went to what's known as Yazid's Darbar, or otherwise the Umayyad Palace, which is very beautiful but very eerie and quite sad to be in as well. We were taken, luckily we had a chance to go and see where they actually placed Imam Hussein's head within the palace as well. For security reasons, we couldn't necessarily get a camera in, but we've tried to capture as much as we can through other ways.
I always find Bazar Sham very moving when you go and when you walk through it. The fact that you recreate what must have happened to Lady Zainab and all the other women that were with her, and obviously Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam. It's quite emotional when you kind of imagine it and what the people were like, and they were sort of hurling things at them, stones and hurling abuse at them. It must have been absolutely horrendous. What did it feel like for you when you were walking through doing Matam, and what did it feel like?
It was really odd, because we gathered, before we actually went through the sort of main strip of shops, we gathered outside, and Sayyid Ammar gave us a short lecture of what happened and all the details. And even when we were gathering there, we had so many sort of random passers-by who were local people there, and they were all stopping and really intrigued to find out what we were talking about. When I found that quite surprising, because I thought there must be groups there all the time who were doing that, but it still seemed like quite a new thing for the people who were there, and just that feeling of them gathering around, and it was a bit uncomfortable, because there were quite a few people who were gathering around. And I remember one of the uncles was saying, just make sure you hold on to your bags, and making sure that all the women are on the inside. And even that uncomfortable feeling was on such a small scale. It did really make you think about how the women of such a holy household must have felt, and coming from such a horrendous series of events, and to have to go through walk through that area was it's very hard for us to imagine how horrible it must be, but like you said, it's very moving as well.
One thing that I always pressed in my mind when I've been there is that the fact that there are narrations that Lady Zainab and all the other women and children were made to wait outside in the sun, outside the gates of Bazar Sham. So it was just think to be waiting there a whole day or two, and then because they're busy sort of decorating it up or whatever that they were doing, and then they open the doors up, and then they're sort of having to walk through there, all of them together, and it just must have been absolutely awful. All attentions, all eyes on them. It just must have been a really, really... I don't think we can actually comprehend in our mind how awful and it must have been for them, because nobody even saw the ladies of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So, we know that Imam Ali Islam would always make sure that he walked in front, and that Imam Hassan Islam walked behind. Nobody, would actually necessarily see them, even in the physical sense, just as a figure. And here, they were walking through a bazaar where people could even see their face, and it was just, I think when you think about it, it's just really, really awful.
And that's why they asked to go in from separate entrances as well, because just to kind of take off that the looks of everyone in one particular direction. And so yeah, I completely agree with you, it must have been horrific. But even for us, when we were going through that strip of shops, And what I thought was the saddest thing was that, we had Brother Hussein Virji and he was reciting. And so we were all doing Madam, and I just thought it was really sad that still the people there, they didn't really seem to understand why we were there or what we were doing. And I found that shocking because I just thought, look at where you're standing, look at where you're working, and you don't really know why we're here or what we're doing. I didn't understand. I just thought so many groups must go every year, and don't the people who are living there want to learn why we come here, and shouldn't they know already? They come from that area. And so that I thought that was sad, but alhamdulillah, at least, we've got groups coming there and keeping that message alive every year, probably every day. But even when Brother Hussein was reciting, I remember I was walking along and doing Madam, and I could hear people going, as we were walking past, people who own shops, and I just thought, I just found it really sad, and I thought that this is exactly why we have to make sure that we keep doing these things, we keep going on ziyarah, because we have to keep what happened, the message of that, alive.
Why were they doing that? Because they were basically saying it was bid'ah, or?
Yeah, I think what they were trying to say was that they don't approve, and also probably thinking that we're overreacting as well. They probably didn't understand what the fuss was all about, because there was quite a few of us, obviously, walking down that strip. We had a PA system as well, so we were on the Brother Hussein was on the microphone, and I think they probably were just wondering what all the fuss was about, because I could see people were starting to gather, and standing on the sides where we were as well, they're all watching. And I would have thought that would be something that they see all the time, especially during times like Arba'een. I really thought that they would have seen that, but it still seemed like something new to them, which is unfortunate. Yeah,
and you obviously then went into the Umayyad Mosque, where obviously Yazid had everyone, and then he sort of mistreated the head of Imam Islam, and he mocked the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. What was it like when you walked in and you knew this was the place? This was
It's a really historic place anyway. Anyone who's been there will know that other important people like John the Baptist are actually buried there. So you have a lot of people visiting who aren't actually Muslim, and they do all respect the dress code, etc. But just that it's very difficult to explain what it's like when you go there, because it's even hard for us to imagine how. It just seems so wrong that the household of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, would have had to even been in the same place, in the same environment as someone like Yazid. But to imagine, Lady Zainab alayhi salam standing there and giving her sermon, and I remember, Sayyid and Sheikh even pointed out where different people believe that she would have stood when she gave her sermon as well. And Imam Zain al-Abidin, and just to really imagine what they had been through and how they were brought to stand in front of all these people. We also visited the place where they say that Yazid kept the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and that's very emotional. People cry a lot to imagine how the head was kept there, and what Yazid was narrated to have done as well, to almost, to tease in a sick way the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So it's very difficult. But it's important, I think, like I said before, it's important for us to go there and not just to visit Karbala, but to actually follow the entire journey through and understand what the family of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, were put through.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, to retrace the journey, understand bit by bit exactly what happened, because even when you do go on ziyarah, depending on which say the sheikh you go to, there are multiple different narrations, what happened here, and everybody thinks that, the whole group of people were actually kept in one place, and it's like, no, they weren't. They were actually moved after a few days from one location to another, to another, to another, and that's why you go and visit different places, because for a few days they were kept in this location, and then they were kept in another location, and then they were kept in another location, and they were actually kept in the Umayyad Mosque where the head was actually kept. They were kept there as well, and it's because the people of Syria found out who these people were, that there was uproar, so then Yazid had to keep moving them from place to place to place, and people don't realise, people just think that they were just in jail for like however long, in one place, and that's not true. But I look forward to watching part 4 of your Ziyarah video journal. And inshallah we will have that next week for you.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. So please do email us with any comments or suggestions or any feedback that you would like us to read at morningbreak@ahlulbayt.tv. Next week, inshallah, we'll have another interview with a special guest as well as our other regular features. So join us next week from both myself and Fatima. Assalamu alaikum.
We are the role models of our kids, and action speaks louder than words. If you want more information and if you want any help, please feel free to email me at sidra@myjourneytohappiness.com. Assalamu alaikum.
I really like how she picked that topic of
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the final segment of Morning Break. Now it's time to go and see what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sidra. So if we are reacting to a situation in a stressful way, or having short tempers, or being really anxious, no matter what we say to our kids about being calm, being honest, and being good kids, they are actually watching us react the way, and that's exactly what they are picking up on. So next time, if you feel the need to react to a situation in a stressful, and I'm your life coach. This week we are talking about children and the importance of the message we give to our kids. As adults, we all like to raise good kids with good values and good morals. And instead, what are we behaving in front of them is what they're picking up on, because they are consistently being programmed by our own behavior way, or being really angry, and you have kids around you. Watch, take a step back and become aware of your feelings and say, what is the message I'm really giving here to my kid? And that would really change your perspective of the situation, because what you're really doing is looking at the bigger picture, as you have a choice. Kids pick up with our actions how we are behaving, because